Coming in at number 10, we have Robot Takeover. The Simpsons was constantly doing social commentary and references to movies and other forms of media, so it should be no surprise that they had an episode that was very much in the vein of Jurassic Park meets Terminator. The family goes to visit the brand new Itchy and Scratchy land, and while they're there, the robots go rogue and try to kill everyone in the park. Obviously, the family manages to make it out with all their pieces intact. Now, could this robot takeover be around the corner? We have more automation in parts of our lives than ever before. I mean, the cars are self-driving now. With the global pandemic happening, it would seem that the push to have automation more available is coming even faster. So we're gonna have more versions of robots everywhere, which would make the world ripe for a robot takeover in 2021. Coming in at number 9, we have virtual reality food. The world of VR is constantly growing, and people are trying to find the killer application that will send this tech into the loving arms of the mainstream. The people who make VR tech want every family to have some sort of headset in their home so they can get hooked up to a digital landscape whenever they want. VR food was showcased in one episode of The Simpsons where we take a peek into the future. In their world it was 2030, but with VR already coming in hot, there's a good chance that we could see something like this next year. There's already cruise ship companies that have been putting together entire VR cruise experiences because people can no longer travel via cruise ship thanks to the coronavirus. So now they want to sell you the whole experience via headset. You could walk through the halls of a beautiful boat, see sun shining down on you. There's also an entire dining experience. Obviously you can't taste the food, but I wonder if down the road we'll get VR nose plugs that will shoot smells into our nose, and then you have something to put on your tongue that stimulates your taste buds. Why is this scary? Because I don't want people to take food away from me. I don't need that in my life. Coming in at number 8, we have the baby translator. Those of you who are fans of some of the original episodes of The Simpsons will remember Homer's brother Herb. He was the guy who was really making a name for himself and basically was the opposite of Homer. He was a go-getter, he was intelligent, and had a full head of hair. In one episode, Herb throws together a baby translator so that people can talk to their little goo bags, and it works perfectly on Maggie. Now this might sound kind of strange, but tech similar to this has worked for a while. In China there have been a series of apps that are supposed to help you understand your baby better. Most of these apps work on the noises that babies make by deciphering what the child needs. Are they hungry? Are they sleepy? Did they just poop their pants? So next year I wouldn't be surprised if we saw something similar to this in the West. This could be very scary because the more we bring technology in between us and our kids, the more we're going to lose our parental instincts. But maybe instincts are a thing of the past and we all gotta be automated from here on out. Coming in at number 7, we have holographic mail. Now The Simpsons definitely isn't the first form of media to predict holograms, and they won't be the last, but they have showcased some future tech of holograms, and it would seem that this tech is right on the horizon. A few years ago, Microsoft showcased some augmented reality tech. They showed Minecraft just appearing on a table, and it was mind-blowing. On top of that, there's the new cube wall in South Korea.
This huge 80 by 20 meter wave trapped inside what appears to be an aquarium is a public art installation displayed on South Korea's biggest digital billboard.
That is so insane. You could have a full-on 3D representation of people in your home if you had something like that in your living room. The only scary part about this would be someone sending unsolicited nudes through one of these bad boys. It would be pretty horrifying to have a 6-foot 3D penis just show up in your house from an unknown stranger who sent it via a blocked number. And if you don't think that's going to happen, then you have too much faith in humanity. I'm waiting for someone to hack that cube wall to show something perverted to thousands of people. Coming in at number 6, we have releasing a species into space. One of the most famous episodes of The Simpsons is when Homer gets to go to space. And what does Homer do while he's up in space? Well, he unleashes an ant colony on the people in the ship, and it would seem that all hell has broken loose. Now, this could be something we'll see in the next year. We know that SpaceX wants to go to Mars super bad, and if they send people up there, it will most likely be a one-way trip. They might tell you you're gonna come back, but I highly doubt that. So I could see someone bringing a pet along with them so they have some company while they're on this crazy voyage. What happens when they get to Mars? Well, would the ants be able to survive the trip? I have no idea. But I don't want to find out what happens to ants if they come in contact with aliens and get mutated into some sort of super ants that can survive on Mars, and then the whole planet is run by ants. Coming in at number 5, we have Bigfoot is discovered. I mean, that would be par for the course with everything that has been going going on in the world. It wouldn't necessarily be bad, but it would just be insane. Well, in one episode of The Simpsons back in 2002, Bart witnesses a Bigfoot just walking around to the public when he's up in Canada. So will this happen? Will the mysterious ape man be discovered in the Great White North? Well, maybe we already have discovered him up here and we just haven't told you guys because it's the biggest secret in Canada. Maybe everyone knows about Bigfoot up here and we just don't tell the rest of you because he can't be trusted. Coming in at number 4, we have the merging of all networks. Now, I don't know if we'll see all networks get sucked into one, but there have been a lot of acquisitions over the last few years. Disney is out buying up any property that gives its viewers the slightest hint of nostalgia, and a lot of networks are in dire strait right now because the ability to make content has been halted thanks to a global pandemic. So we could see a lot of big networks go out of business or come close to bankruptcy. They might try to save themselves by merging into one massive entity. We see this on one episode of The Simpsons where we get a glimpse into the future, and the major news network has become CNN, BS, a division of ABC. Now, why would this be spooky? Well, it's already hard to get the facts from major news sources. All they really care about is ratings. It seems like journalistic integrity is out the window. Now, what would the world look like if one major face had a monopoly on news? That wouldn't be a pretty world to live in. Coming in at number 3, we have a billionaire will try and control the sun. It's not surprising that the super rich are constantly doing things to try and profit off the environment at the cost of a healthy planet and the people who live on it. Very few of them care about the cost of doing business unless the cost is actual dollar signs. Well, in one episode of The Simpsons, Mr. Burns blocks out the sun so that all of Springfield has to use the power plant energy 24 hours a day. This could be the next big move for the rich and evil. They are already cutting down swaths of the rainforest, which is causing forest fires because there's less moisture in the air, therefore less clouds because vegetation produces a ton of vapor. They've poisoned water supplies around the world, so the next thing they could be trying to control is whether or not you're allowed to be in the sun. Coming in at number 2, we have environmental disasters. In the Simpsons movie, the launch pad for the movie's conflict is when Homer is throwing out pig poop into the Springfield Lake. This is already a cesspool of disease, and the added poop sends Springfield into a mode of environmental disaster. We could see something like this again in 2021. I mean, probably. There's basically been some sort of environmental catastrophe every year for who knows how long. There was the water in Flint, Michigan, the forest fires in California, the fires in Australia, the BP oil spill, the list goes on and on. So will there be something next year that will cause all of us to be on high alert because we've done some serious damage to our gentle planet once again? Well, it would seem that could be true. I really hope not, because I don't know how many more punches to the gut the planet can take before its knees start to buckle. Alright, and coming into the number 1 spot, we have the dome. Running off our last point in the same Simpsons movie, we have the entire town quarantined because of this environmental disaster. Now, most of the world is in some level of quarantine, whether it be indoor dining, everyone working from home, or you're like Florida and you don't have any sort of lockdown procedures, and the state just gave the okay to sell out Dolphin Stadium. That is crazy. Well, if things keep getting worse in some places, maybe we'll see the most intense of all lockdown procedures, the dome. In the Simpsons movie, the entire town is locked under a massive dome that makes sure no one can get in or out of the city. Could this happen somewhere in the world? Perhaps somewhere where the coronavirus has gotten out of control, or maybe the virus mutates along the line and an entire city or country needs to be closed down. The military flies in a dome and locks the city away in a forced quarantine. If that happens, you better start stockpiling on canned food because that's a very scary future. Alright everyone, that has been our list. Now I'm going to answer some questions from my Instagram inbox. Glowing X Granger wrote in and asked, are you going to do more SCP videos? Without a doubt we'll do more SCP videos. We always got new SCP content coming along. Daniel Messine wrote in and asked, hey Chaderena, how does someone achieve life? My best guess would be figure out what the most important things in your life are. Make sure you always include them, work on yourself constantly, never be static, and never neglect rest. Rest is very important. I like sleeping. And Goku Black 990 wrote in and asked, if you could go back in time, what would you do? I'd probably go back and smell the air and taste the water before large-scale pollution was ever created, and then I would show someone a lighter and just blow their mind. At number 10, we have the show can predict the future. I'm going to start off with the most popular Simpsons theories. I figure we all already talk about this one, so it would be a great place to start. Through the long-running series of The Simpsons, there has been some episodes that have actually called out what's going to happen in real life before it has actually happened. I did a detailed explanation on this on our other channel, Life's Biggest Questions, in the video How Did the Simpsons Predict the Future? Now, no matter what you think about this theory, you have to admit that some of these things are very interesting, like the ending of Game of Thrones, they predicted that, as well as Donald Trump becoming president, and even the coronavirus. I wonder if they have a vault of unused Simpsons episodes that have predicted other outcomes into the future. These guys are like precogs in Minority Report. Number 9, we have Marge shot Mr. Burns. One of the best episodes in Simpsons history is the one that presents the mystery of who shot Mr. Burns. There was so much goodness in that episode, they had to pack it into a two-parter. Now, when everything is said and done, every stone has been turned over, and there's no more suspects, it seems that the little baby Maggie was the one who shot Mr. Burns. Now, even though this is how the episode unfolds, fans have done some digging and found clues that suggest that maybe Marge was the one who fired the bullet into the old billionaire. When Burns wakes up, he is terrified of Maggie, but who is holding her? It's Marge. But then if it was Marge, why doesn't he sell her down the river? Well, if you pay close attention to the show, you will see several points where it reveals that Mr. Burns is actually in love with Marge. After he gathers himself, he puts the blame on the little baby in blue because he was confident that no one was gonna throw a baby in jail and his secret love would still be safe. And number 8, we have why don't they get older? Now, of course, the beauty of having a cartoon on the air is that no matter how long the show goes for, the characters never age out. As long as you have the voice actors around, you can keep the show going forever. And even after they die, which can be sad but does happen, you can replace them with an impersonator. And with a show like this, the voices are so iconic that other people have already mastered the voices. But even though you can answer this question by just saying it's a cartoon, we want to go a little bit deeper. And there are a lot of answers to this. Some people say that everyone in the show is dead and that they have been locked in purgatory. Other people say that each episode takes place in an alternate dimension and each episode is actually happening simultaneously on separate timelines. It would be cool if they opened up the Simpsons multiverse a little bit. And number 7, we have a nuke hit Springfield. Let's say that the theory about the whole town being in purgatory is true. How did everyone in the town get there at the same time? Not only everyone in their town, but also everyone in Shelbyville as well as Springfield. Well, some people think that the area was victim to a nuclear strike that vaporized everyone at the same time. They all saw a flash, thought it was a bad dream, and then they moved on with their lives, not knowing that they were all actually dead. And you know, for the town of Springfield, that wouldn't be that weird. One giant flash just one time. Crazy things go on there all the time. At number 6, we have everyone is a genius. We all see The Simpsons as a classic middle-class family, filling all the roles that we are comfortable with. But what if they are actually the smartest family in the world? We already know that Lisa is so smart, it literally alienates her from the rest of the world, and she shows off her brilliance on several occasions. Every time Marge takes a break from raising a family, she excels at whatever she does. Even though Bart struggles in the confines of school, outside of that, he is extremely resourceful and has been shown to be an almost genius level criminal. Maggie is probably the smartest baby ever, and there's even an episode where a crayon is removed from Homer's brain and it reveals that he is one of the smartest people in all of Springfield. At number 5, we have The Simpsons are actually super rich. Now, the show is a cartoon that has been on almost longer than any other show. I know we're not counting like soap operas and stuff. I mean, it's very hard to dunk on days of your lives, but when a show has been on for that long, you gotta find crazier and crazier plots to keep the show interesting. But if the show was rooted in reality, how do the Simpsons buy everything and do everything and travel as much as they do? Well, I don't know if you guys remember the Simpsons character who is basically a billionaire supervillain, Hank Scorpio, but he ended up giving Homer the Denver Broncos. Homer owns that team, so if that's true, that would be enough capital for them to do whatever they want, whenever they want. They would literally be billionaires. At number 4, we have the Mole Man clones. Mole Man might be my favorite character in the whole show. He's just an old dude who is constantly used as a punchline. And by punchline, I mean they will have some sort of physical abuse happen to him. Everything from getting hit in the nuts to getting run off the road. Really, is there anything funnier than an old man getting hit in the nuts. You can try to look for hours. I don't think you'll find anything. But how can this weak old man take so much punishment and come right back up on his feet like he's in a Rocky movie? Well, some people say it's because it's not the same old guy every time. It's actually a bunch of clones that might have an underground layer and only send out clones to the surface when they need supplies. They do this to keep their secret safe and because they are afraid of the world because it is a very hostile place for them. It seems like it's always trying to kill them, so they would have a very good reason to be afraid. And number 3, we have Mr. Burns wants the power plant to fail. Homer has made so many mistakes he should no longer be employed at the power plant. It doesn't make any sense that he has not been fired yet. Well, there is a simple reason to this, that Mr. Burns wants the power plant to melt down. The theory is that Mr. Burns has been betting on the power plant failing by taking out a ton of insurance claims on the buildings in Springfield, as well as the power plant. So if that thing goes boom, then Mr. Burns will make millions, if not billions of dollars. And number 2, we have Flanders burn down the Simpsons' home. In the episode Homer the Heretic, Homer has a change of faith. He no longer wants to go to church, which leads him to staying home on Sunday to smoke fat stogies and get wasted to the point where he passes out. Well, something that you should all know is don't fall asleep with a lit cigarette or cigar because you can burn your house down. The Simpsons' home goes up in flames. And who is there to save Homer when he's asleep while the house is burning? Well, it's the most heroic churchgoer of all time, Ned. But wait a minute, Ned is probably the most religious man in all of Springfield. Why was he not at church? He was also the one who was pushing Homer to go back to church. It could have been Ned who lit the house on fire and then saved Homer so he could both look like a hero and convince the town, if you're not gonna go to church, it will unleash the wrath of God. This way he could live in a town that is controlled by the church. And for the number 1 spot, we have Matt Groening was a friend of Jeffrey Epstein's. This is a tough pill to swallow. Now, if this is true, it doesn't mean that the show is dead to us, and there isn't any hard evidence against him, but I'll tell you guys a story, and then you can put the pieces together yourself and make your own call. Virginia Guffrey was one of the biggest voices that came out after Epstein was arrested. She claimed that Jeffrey Epstein was flying around to perform sexual favors from the time she was only 15. She told one story where she was flying on Jeffrey's private plane, and Matt Groening, the creator of The Simpsons, was coming along with them. On the flight, Epstein suggested that Guffrey give Groening a foot massage, which she did, and before he got off the plane, Groening drew Virginia Guffrey a picture of Bart and then signed it. Now, The Simpsons creator may have not known the girl's age and maybe never had a relationship with Epstein outside of this flight, but the whole thing makes the guy look super guilty and like he is a massive creep. Alright everyone, that has been our list, and as promised, I'm going to be doing some more pet shoutouts. Remember, if you want me to shout out your pet, you can hit me up on Instagram. I pick new pets every day, so if you don't get picked one day, you can message back another day. I usually pick to message last, so just like message me again and again or whatever. If it takes me a little while to get back to you, I am very sorry. I have a lot of these to do, and without taking any longer, let's shout out some pets. First, we have Kitty, who is a beautiful black cat. After that, we have this beautiful little shaggy dog who is hanging out all on his own. I think he has some money there too. God, this dog is so cute. And then we have Bella, who's looking so cute with her little hat on. It's her birthday in this picture. What a sweetheart. Everyone wish her a happy birthday. Then we have a trio of chihuahuas with some boozy names. First, we got Tequila, then Margarita, then Vodka. That is a team of party dogs. And to close it out, we have Monty, who is the best little floofer of all time. Look at a little floofy dog. You just want to hold him like this and just go like, and just kiss him on his little nose.
Number 10, interactive holograms. The season 11 episode Bart to the Future has been one of the most mentioned Simpsons episodes when it comes to predictions. It helps that it takes place in 2030, which at the time I'm recording this is still 8 years away. If YouTube is still around then and you're watching to see if any of these came true, let me know in the comments. I promise that I'll check. The episode most notably correctly predicted that Donald Trump would become president, but there were some other things that have yet to happen that could mean trouble for us in the future. In the beginning of the episode, Bart is watching Itchy and Scratchy, the gory version of Tom and Jerry, but instead of on the TV, he is watching a 3D hologram. Well, these are close to becoming a reality with the likes of Tupac and even Homer himself being shown as holograms on stages. A 3D hologram that is interactive is far from our capabilities right now. The scary part of this is when blood gets sprayed all over the walls of the Simpson home from the cartoon. While the idea of an interactive hologram is cool, in practice I think that it could provide some real nightmare fuel. Before we get to our our next entry, hit the like and subscribe buttons if you're enjoying the video so far. Number 9. Virtual takeover. I'm a lover of VR. You know, my headset probably gets the most use out of all of my gaming consoles, so I love the idea of VR becoming more immersive, and we're making some huge strides, like haptic technology that allows us to feel things happening in the virtual world, or full body and face capture technology to allow realistic bodies and movement in games. But one thing that is yet to happen that could be on the way is a mass adoption of VR on the scale of what happens in season 28 episode 2, where Mr. Burns discovers VR and the whole town of Springfield is using it to a point of near societal collapse. While virtual reality allows for some amazing things to happen and augmented and mixed reality have some more practical non-gaming applications, it's not out of the realm of possibility for us all to be walking around with some sort of crazy device strapped to our heads in the future that allows us to change the world we see. But the implications of losing touch with reality can be massive, and the episode proves it. So let's hope that if VR takes off like I think it can, that we keep our feet on the ground and in touch with the real world around us, and take the goggles off from time to time, or we'll forget to take care of our actual reality. Number 8. Hologram trees. The episode Lisa's Wedding from season 6 takes place in 2010, 15 years from 1995 when the episode was released, and unsurprisingly many of the predictions of the future have yet to come to pass, like Big Ben being replaced with a digital interface. But one that we should definitely not want to happen is the hologram trees that we see. While the thought of being able to switch from coniferous to deciduous at the drop of a hat is pretty fun, if they're just aesthetic, we could be in a world of trouble. Trees filter CO2 from our air and give us back oxygen, which is pretty nice of them. And unless the holograms have some CO2 scrubbing tech to come with them, replacing real ones with projections will have a dramatic impact on our atmosphere. We can already see the beginnings of this with deforestation, so let's focus on our real arborist friends rather than holographic ones. Number 7. Robot Rebellion. Them Robot was the 17th episode of the 23rd season, and in it we see Mr. Burns replacing all of his employees with robots except Homer to save costs. But one seems to be developing a personality when it understands Homer's working hard or hardly working joke. Homer eventually messes with the robots so much that they ignore the laws of robotics and attempt to kill Springfield residents. Obviously this would spell disaster in the real world as it does in the show, and we're moving towards more and more automation in the workplace, allowing humans to work less dangerous jobs and eventually allowing us to hopefully spend more time living life than working our time away. But we are nowhere near that point yet. The Simpsons dabbles with the idea a few times, like in the episode Itchy and Scratchy Land, where the animatronics gain sentience and attack parkgoers, a la Five Nights at Freddy's. AI gaining sentience has been the device of science fiction horror stories for such a long time, but it's becoming closer and closer to a real life issue. Heck, there's even a robot named Sophia with AI so advanced that she was granted citizenship in Saudi Arabia. I don't want to deal with real life Cybermen when the Cyberium takes over, so maybe we should slow down on the whole giving robots consciousness thing. Number 6. French fiasco. The French have been an ally to the Western world for the entirety of modern history, but in Treehouse of Horror 8, all of that is thrown out the window when Mayor Quimby makes an apparently offensive frog's legs joke and refuses to apologize, telling them to do their worst. Even Marge joins in on the jabs by saying, "You know how unpredictable the French are. One minute they're kissing a woman's hand, the next they're chopping off her head." Well, the French president didn't take too kindly to this and starts a war by launching a neutron that levels the town, leaving Homer as the last person alive in all of Springfield, and we all know that leaving Homer alone is a terrible idea. Now, it should be painfully obvious why France launching missiles aimed at the US would be something we don't want to happen, but that's not the only scary prediction from this episode. Number 5. Teleportation. In Fly vs. Fly, the second story in this episode, Homer buys a teleportation pod from Professor Frink for 50 cents. A damn good deal if you ask me, but maybe too good to be true, as the rest of the episode shows some of the terrors that could come with this tech. Instantly arriving somewhere else on the Earth after simply stepping into a pod has been a dream of many scientists for centuries, and the practical applications would change society as we know it. And there have been some crazy advancements, like the Chinese scientists who teleported particles to a satellite in space. But in the episode, we get a warning of the dangers that could lie ahead, with reference to the classic science fiction horror The Fly. We see the loyal Simpson pets, Santa's Little Helper, and Snowball 2 becoming merged together Cronenberg style, and Bart gets the idea to turn into a superhero with the power of flight by merging with the Fly. Clearly he didn't see what happened to Jeff Goldblum, but life finds a way. And Bart and the Fly switch heads when their DNA is merged together, leading to the horror show of what the family has to deal with. I don't know about you, but I don't plan on mixing my DNA with any other creatures, so until that's sorted out, I'll stick with the TARDIS. Number 4. Colonization of Mars. Season 27, episode 16 has the Simpsons signing up to be some of the first colonizers of the Red Planet, albeit somewhat unwillingly, and eventually their trip turns out to be a scam perpetrated by the scientists, whose rocket fails to start, and when they try to flee the scene, their car can't start either. But at the end of the episode, we get a time jump to 2051 and see them actually living on Mars, though Lisa now wants to leave and move to Venus, which would be an absolutely horrible idea. Though the idea of Mars colonization is thrown around all the time these days, the thought that we may have to use it as a necessity when we finish destroying this planet is not a future I look forward to. But I mean, I'd probably go. Would you? Number 3. The dome. The main plot device in the Simpsons movie comes in the form of a giant dome encapsulating the entire town of Springfield after pollution has led to mutations in local wildlife, and not just the three-eyed fish near the nuclear plant. Stephen King actually released his novel turned TV series Under the Dome in 2009, 2 years after the Simpsons movie debut. Another prediction, perhaps? While the idea is incredibly silly, we have seen in the past few years that quarantine can become a reality for us, albeit without the impenetrable dome, but who knows, maybe in the future this could become a real thing to stop environmental disasters from getting out of hand, like catching a hurricane in a bottle or something. Ridiculous, I know, but let's just hope we never have to use it. Number 2. Time travel. People assume that time is a strict progression from cause to effect, but actually from a non-linear, non-subjective viewpoint, it's more like a big ball of wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff. And The Simpsons have dabbled with time travel many times over their 34 seasons, but in Treehouse of Horror 5, we get a glimpse of what is commonly known as the butterfly effect. I know Ashton Kutcher's ears just pricked up when I said that. Time travel could have insane implications on the human race, but there are multiple theories on how it would work. Maybe if you went to the past, you would create an entirely new timeline where things are different. Or maybe nothing is able to be changed at all because time is constant and what has happened has always happened. But in the episode, we see that Homer's small changes in the past with his time-traveling toaster bring massive consequences forward, like Flanders ruling the world, people becoming giants, and even the world having no knowledge of donuts. So, if time travel becomes a reality, and maybe it already has in the future, we need to be careful not to mess with anything, or we risk losing everything. And finally, we reach our number 1, mini black hole. In Treehouse of Horror 23, the town of Springfield begrudgingly builds a particle reactor instead of a baseball stadium and creates a tiny black hole, which swallows up a few residents before Lisa can move it to her basement for safekeeping. After she warns the family to not throw anything into it, lest it grow bigger, they do exactly that, and it becomes massive and swallows everything in its path, taking the townsfolk to an alternate dimension where aliens worship the trash they disposed of in the hole. Black holes are scary enough on their own, let alone what would happen if one was to pop up on Earth, already surrounded by matter it could consume. So hopefully this prediction never happens, or we wouldn't know what hit us until we were spaghettified, which is an actual scientific term describing what would happen if you fell into a black hole. You would be stretched infinitely thin as you were pulled across the event horizon, and since time is affected by gravity, it would last an infinite amount of time. Spaghettification, your new word of the week.